found that a lot of lawyers, they get too fancy. The more you can refine it and get more straight to the point, the higher the conversion rates. That's what resonates and actually converts in marketing. There's a framework to this. So let's go through the framework. You need to know what is going on when it comes with your numbers. My mindset is you can only scale with numbers. Every time a lead comes in or every time a client is signed up, go set up a Zapier integration for that to automatically update a Google Sheet. Hundreds of Facebook ads every day that I analyze. Rookie mistake, I'm sorry, very innocent sounding, but they're actually super harmful. 90% of tools are a waste of time and you don't really need them. These things work, you just have to be done correctly. Not being scared by it, embracing it will really make a difference. If you haven't listened to our last episode, please do, because they were pretty insightful. So let's continue. The biggest mistakes that law firm owners make is being clever and not clear. I found that a lot of lawyers, they get too fancy when it comes to their marketing, their messaging, trying to be very on the creative side. What I've learned from experience is it's a lot better to be a lot more clear and straightforward and as succinctly as possible with as few words as possible. The more you can refine it and get more straight to the point, the higher the conversion rates. So while creativity is valuable, actually clarity takes precedent over that. Let's try to give some examples. When it comes to your advertising, a lot of people try to get creative when it comes to their hooks, try to use ambiguous similes or analogies or some like unclear language where maybe sophisticated people understand it or some certain type of people can understand it, but for the average person, it takes a little bit of brain power to really understand what they're saying. Instead, call out clearly those people that you help and very succinctly explain the specific problems that they have in layman language, specific pain points, not like the legalese pain points, but like specific actual pain points, the feelings, those exact, when you take a moment of how they're feeling at that moment when they're dealing with that pain and you put that succinctly into words, that's what resonates and actually converts in marketing. When I was learning this, there was a really good resource that I learned from, which I'll share with our audience, and that's from Donald Miller. There's an amazing YouTube video called Donald Miller's Story Brand One-Liner Exercise. It only has 300,000 views right now, which it actually deserves to have millions of views. And it was really game-changing for me to get really clear on creating a one-liner every time I wanted to launch a new law firm, a new advertising campaign. That was like the foundational piece I would go to get that my one-liner, which we'll get to shortly. And from that I was able to create all the, again, campaigns, advertisements, the websites, the funnels, the emails, the text, and everything came from that. Should we go through the one-liner, Neil?
My observation is that I think a lot of times we as attorneys think that we need to be the creative guru for our marketing. And you went to law school to be a lawyer, and you're an entrepreneur to excel in business. So you have to recognize what you do well and what you should leave to the professionals. And this Donald Miller framework here will help guide you. If you're going to use a professional to work on that, then this will give you some additional focus. And so, yes, let's go through it.
All right. So this exercise is pretty much the answer you will give when somebody asks you, what do you do? So when somebody asks, what do you do? Imagine you're at a party and people are talking and you ask somebody in your little clique, hey, what do you do? So person number one says, I'm an at-home chef. Okay, great. That sounds good. Person number two, what do you do? And person number two says, oh, most families don't eat together anymore. And when they do, they don't eat healthy. I'm an at-home chef and I come to your home to make sure you enjoy your food and maintain your healthy lifestyle. When people hire me, I free up their time, their frustrations, and make them more money. Which one engages you more? Which one captures the essence of how you help people? Well, definitely the second one. Well, there's a framework to this. So let's go through the framework. It's 3 parts. The first part of the framework is the problem. You want to clearly identify your client's problem. Again, we mentioned this, these specific feelings and words, these feelings that people are experiencing before they come and hire you. Second part is, what's your solution? And very succinctly, again, avoiding any legalese. Just try to take any of the legalese out. As soon as you notice that it's something that you probably know as a lawyer, or something that you do, try to avoid that. Instead, what's the ultimate result or ultimate benefit that your potential clients get months after you help them? And the third is, What's the reward? How does your client's life look like after their problem is resolved? And that should lead to a 1 to 2 sentences max, very succinct description of your pretty much what you do. We give a little gist of this, but I remember when I got exposed to this, Neil, I realized the foundation of the messaging of the law firm it starts from here. So we actually dedicated our program, the first module, a good portion of this was working in the trenches to get this down, working in like a workshop setting. Here's some more examples. Here's some examples for estate planning lawyers, for business lawyers, etc. Now go create your own. People will go create it, and they will come back, share it, and we will refine it together until we lock it in. And it's one of those things also that's not like you just get it first try you do this. It usually takes weeks, sometimes months, and sometimes even years. I have a Apple Note on my phone that's called straight up one-liners. And as new things came to me and I get more clarity and I ask myself, how can I refine it? Even years later, I'm refining that one-liner. It's an important one that I'm sure a lot of podcasts is on this topic, but it still doesn't take away from the importance, which is the mistake of not knowing your numbers. So one of the prerequisites before scaling is you need to know what is going on, specifically when it comes to with your numbers. And a lot of people fall into the trap of overcomplicating things when it comes to knowing your numbers. In the very beginning, the most fundamental the only two numbers you need to know to scale is just two things. Number one is cost per acquisition. Essentially, how much did it cost you to acquire a client, which is straight up it's your marketing divided by a number of clients you sign up. So you spend $10,000 to get 10 clients. Your cost per acquisition is 1,000. That's the first number. And second is your lifetime customer value, aka how much is this client worth to you? If your average net attorney's fees is $5,000, then that is your lifetime customer value. That is the foundational numbers that you need to know before you even start spending money in marketing and scaling and automating all that stuff. Everything comes on the back end of knowing those two numbers. And then once you do know those two numbers, then marketing and scaling becomes really, really easy, honestly. A lot of it comes down to just be more aggressive and more liberal to spend more, especially as long as your ROI is at least 200%. That means for $1 in, you're getting $3 out or $2 profit. As long as you have that, then you're encouraged to go spend as much money as you can, to turning more of those $1 into $3 or $5 or even $8. This is what we do. So yeah, know your numbers at the foundation at that level. And I could even talk beyond that, how it could become more granular than that.
This was a big challenge for me as I grew my law firm because the data was all over the place. And I really needed to sit down and take some time to really focus and get in a way that I could make sense of it. For instance, there's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of reporting available out of my accounting package. I use QuickBooks. I know a lot of other people do QuickBooks Online, but I never knew how to get the most out of that. Now I turned to hiring a fractional CFO, and his entire job is to feed me these numbers so that I can evaluate the health of my business. And I think that's one of the best investments that I made in the firm, was hiring somebody that could help me get that 40,000 foot view. One of the things that he suggested that I do was to start to track how long it takes for a client when they sign up with our law firm until we are completed with their estate plan. So what's the average time creating an estate plan? And that proved to be some really valuable information. When we first started, our average was of 57 days, start to finish, which is a long time. But when we dug into that and tried to understand where was the number coming from, we found a lot of the delay was in the client response, not our response, but in how quickly the client could turn around the data. So that helped us guide what we needed to do to improve things. And I can tell you, we've now cut that in half over the course of a year. So knowing your numbers provides valuable insight into the operation of your firm and helps you target where you need to be applying focus and interest to make it more efficient and ultimately more valuable.
Totally. And what I try to do is, at the very least, only minimum, I need 2 sets of numbers. The first set is our marketing numbers. Ideally, for each marketing source, I want these numbers. Number one, and I usually try to do this on a daily, weekly, and monthly, at the very least monthly, and then go from there. Number one is the cost. How much did it cost me to run ads from that specific source? Number two, number of leads, qualified leads or meetings. Every law firm is different. Some people just straight up every lead that they get is qualified or is more or less should be qualified as long as you sign them up. So it should be leads. If you get a lot of unqualified leads, then I want to track the qualified leads. If your core marketing leads to meetings, great. I want to know how many meetings. The third number is your cost per lead, your cost per qualified lead, or cost per meeting. Again, depending on what works for you.
Yeah.
Number four is how many clients did you sign up? Number five is cost per acquisition, which is again the cost divided by number of clients you signed up. And number six is the ROI. The ROI is just simply the revenue that you made minus your cost divided by the cost times 100. That will give you a percentage. If you see, when you do that calculation that I just explained, if you see that number is over 200, that means you're doing something amazing. Go spend more money. If it's doing something below 200, you need to optimize more. If you're breaking even, then at that point, my mindset is, when did you start this campaign? If it's now you're like 3 months in, 6 months in, and you're still not profitable, or you're losing money, or you're breaking even, then that's cause for concern. But if you're in the first or second month, I would say, okay, maybe keep at it and just optimize. That's the things that I look for on marketing. And on the back end, as you said, for operations, all I try to do is just to get an updated P&L statement, profit and loss statement. And I use QuickBooks for this, QuickBooks Online. All my law firms, I know with clarity how much money is coming in, how much money is coming out. I look at the net, I look at the gross, see if things are growing. And as long as I have this macro view from the P&L statement, then just scale from there.
Maybe something we can talk about in a future episode, Sam, is the pushback that I get from a lot of attorneys when I talk about tracking your marketing costs is, wow, that's a lot of time and effort to get those numbers. How do you go about doing that? So that might be something we want to talk about. What's an optimal way of capturing that data?
At the very least, you start off with manually, and a Google Sheet is a good place to start, just to get a grasp. And the mindset is, every time something happens, every time a lead comes in, or every time a client is signed up, go set up a Zapier integration for that to automatically update a Google Sheet. Foundational, just a place to keep track the number of leads, number of clients. Once you get that, you get a grasp of what's going on. Then over time, you could create dashboards. We use HubSpot dashboards. At any point, I could go look at this month, last month, 3 months ago, from each source. How much is our cost? How much is our leads? What's our cost per lead? What's our cost per qualified lead? What's our cost per acquisition? All that stuff very granularly live in a HubSpot dashboard. But I would say for most people, just start off manually, Google Sheet. If you can set up a Zapier integration to be able to bring that automatic into your data, great, and then build from there. And these are all things also is beyond most people, as you said. However, you don't necessarily need to be the one to set this up. You hire people that set this up. And one of the good perks of our program is we have people that are trained and do this and have exposed to this and are setting this up on a daily basis. Again, all these things that we share about, we try to share the knowledge and the information. But if you need help implementing, this is exactly what my Legal Academy does, is all this back-end growth help. The mistake is focusing on the what more than the who. The mistake is the what is usually about what you do. That's a mistake. The basic way that every lawyer talks. I'm an estate planning lawyer who does this, and look at my achievements and look at blah, 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 blah. Instead, you want to flip the language about who do you help and what's the pain points that your clients have and what's the light at the end of the tunnel, without talking about what you do, the middle part. Okay. So you're completely flipping what your mind wants to do. And I'm exposed to hundreds of Facebook ads every day that I analyze, and 80-90% of it is in that framework. And I'm like, rookie mistake. I'm so sorry. You're probably going to be running these ads for the next couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and you're just not going to go anywhere. And then you're going to stop it. And then you're going to blame, oh, Facebook ads didn't work for me. No, these things work. You just have to be done correctly. But if you focus more on the who, more than the what, then you'll see your conversion rates will shoot up.
Also suggest that I think it's a great focus point here, but not just for your marketing and your advertising. I think this is also true about your staffing, because a lot of times when we go to scale up our staff, we're thinking about what are they going to be doing. And I think when you think about it, who's going to be doing what is the more important question. Okay. And so when you look for staffing opportunities, I've always felt that you find the person first and then you'll match them to what needs to be done. That's always been my focus.
Number 9 is not embracing technology and having limiting beliefs about tech and automation. And Neil's already shaking his head. Neil.
I think that's being an old techie myself. I see this all the time, and it's never been a better time to embrace technology and leverage technology to improve the efficiency of your law firm and ultimately in the long run, the profitability of it. Always astounded by folks who say, I'm too old, or it's not something I can devote my time to learning about. You got to find some way to stay abreast with what's going on, because Sam's a perfect example of somebody who's right on top of things. And if thousands and thousands of people, not quite as good as Sam, but who are also doing a hard look at technology, and if you don't at least try and keep pace with them, you're just going to fall dreadfully behind. I'm guilty of that myself to some degree when it came to AI. I was a little slow, as I've said in previous episodes, a little slow to embrace where AI was going. And now, as we'll see a little later on, as we talk about this, how it's just going to be everything we do. And the real challenge is to know what to focus on, what technology to focus on. Don't go chasing every shiny object. You have to be a little selective. And then once you decide what it is, as we've said in previous episodes, you really have to take a deep dive and get to know everything that technology, that application can do for you and leverage it.
And it's those self-sabotaging words that you mentioned. I'm too old for this. I'm not technical enough. These young wizards and all this, putting yourself down, they're innocent sounding, but they're actually super, super harmful. I cannot express how significant they are to your psyche and to your result, ultimately to your result, what those little innocent sounding words do to you. So from now on, I want everybody to change that perspective. No, I am technical enough. Even if you got to fake it till you make it, you got to kind of say that to yourself. I am technical enough. I love this. This is going to be life-changing for me. And I'll figure it out, or I'll find somebody who can figure this out for me. Not being scared by it, embracing it will really make a difference.
There are some technologies, some platforms that I feel aren't user-friendly enough. For whatever reason, they lost sight of who the person is on the other side of the screen. You may find it may be that you're looking at the wrong tool. Right? You're looking at the wrong platform, one that hasn't matured enough or given enough thought to the user experience. So that's why a guy like Sam in My Legal Academy can help guide you to those types of platforms and products that have already been vetted. Okay, so you don't have to spend time, waste time.
Yeah, because 90% of tools are a waste of time, and you don't really need them. And there are a lot of shiny objects out there. So yeah, that's the benefits of having a community where you can actually search for that to see if there's already been people who have talked about it. If not, post about it, see what people say. We've already tested and tried out most of these tools, so to save you a lot of those time, so you don't have to go down the rabbit hole. And number 10 is something that I feel very strong about is over networking. Of course, everybody's different. So some people are built to be extroverts. They love meeting people, be able to learn, be able to connect to people. But there is such a thing as over networking. Neil, if you have some things to share about this, my thoughts are there are some benefits to networking, but I think overdoing it too much is actually a hindrance.
Yeah. And when I first started down this path 8 years ago with the law entrepreneur, when we talked about marketing law firms, all anybody ever talked about was networking, relationship building and networking. And while that's absolutely important, I would say don't do it if you're not enjoying it. I talked to hundreds of attorneys that say, I'm going to go network. I'm going to go to this Chamber of Commerce event. Or I'm going to go to Kiwanis or whatever, business association meeting. I just hate it. If you don't like it, you're not going to be good at it. You're not going to get anything out of it. It's going to be a complete and utter waste of your time. Now, if there's some group of people, like I work with a group called Cadre here in DC, although it's available on a larger scale now, then they've gone more virtual and spread out. I work with Cadre because I really enjoy their events and I really enjoy the people. But you can spend way too much time networking when you could be devoting that time to doing all these other things that we're talking about to grow your business.
Me and my wife have this line that we always say to each other. It's like, No one is forcing you. A lot of people feel like they're forced.
Nobody's keeping score of what bar association meetings you go to. If you enjoy it, or if you aspire to lead a bar association, or that's important for you because you have other goals and ambitions that supports, then great. I'm not trying to talk you out of that at all. But don't think you have to fill up your day every day of the week with some networking event in order to grow your business. That's just really an inefficient way of doing it.
And I challenge people, if people post one post a day on their social media, sharing something of value, something that resonates with them personally and that they just put out to the world, that's probably a lot more effective than going to networking events. You have hundreds and thousands of friends on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, wherever. Just share that consistently. You will see that'll be a lot more impactful and more significant to your practice than showing up, packing and showing up to a hotel for 3-4 days and grinding out.